Hey everyone, it's Josh Vision. I'm here to give you my review for The Last Kingdom, Season 3, Episode 1. So, the primary basis of this episode essentially is the fact that King Alfred feels as though that his end days are coming. He's paranoid. He's basically wondering what has he really accomplished since becoming king. He has this very interesting conversation with Bioka about that, and he says that honestly, even though that he feels that he would still be in purgatory, even if when he died. We have Bioka basically tell Alfred that without you, that there wouldn't be no Wessex, there wouldn't be any laws, there wouldn't be any safe havens, boroughs, etc., etc., and that regardless if you die, and regardless of how much you think you accomplished, you have accomplished a lot, and that your your descendants and so on and so forth, they're going to continue your work. So that's able to sort of cheer up Alfred a bit, but not so much. When it comes to Uhtred's storyline, his wife is pregnant once again, and she's about to give birth. He's very concerned about the possibility of her surviving. Um, in regards to the whole Uhtred thing, let's go back to Hastings and his connection when it comes to this new threat. In terms when it comes to Wessex, and I believe this Earl's name is Earl Siegfried, but he goes by Bloodhair. He has this weird relationship with this Scot, this seer sorceress woman. She's very very crazed and very scary. I think at one point, I believe two of her bodyguards, or I believe one of her bodyguards, actually stared at her during her little meditation or her little vision trip, and she gorged his eyes out, cut his leg open, saying that only blood hair could see her, and no one else asked permission, so on and so forth. So after that, we see her meet up with Bloodhair, and she tells Bloodhair that she foresaw Alfred's death. Now, that vision she had, we see Alfred getting slain, but we don't quite know who this person that slain Alfred is. He moves like a rabid animal, and the way he went about destroying Alfred was just straight up savage. So, with this knowledge, Bloodhair is like, okay, we're gonna take him out. He has a lot of reassurance, so on and so forth. So, back to the character of Hastings. Hastings meets up with Uhtred, Alfred, Bioka, and his wife, talking about the plans about this new threat. Alfred is sick. He vomits during the table. He asks Uhtred what they should do. I believe they said they have to meet up in Alton and the Borough. So he agrees with Uhtred, and he goes about, I believe, to get some fresh air alongside his wife. And we have this back and forth with Hastings and Uhtred. And Hastings mentions this seer, seeing that she's kind of like Uhtred's type, beautiful on the outside but dark within. They mention Alfred's daughter and her role in Hastings' former leader's death, and he said he will never forget what that bitch did. And Bioka's basically, him and Bioka's going back and forth. Bioka said at one point that he wished he had asked to decapitate him, and blah blah blah. So after that, we get to see Alfred's daughter and her husband, the king of Mercia. He's not going to lead his army. Essentially, his main man, his right hand man, is going to do it, and she's going to join along with him. And she's basically calling him out, saying that you should be leading your army, so on and so forth. But he's very angry with her with the fact that the daughter, their daughter, most likely isn't his daughter due to her little love affair from last season, and calling her basically a whore, so on and so forth. And she rallies the troops, inspires the men, much to the Mercian King's right hand man's delight. I feel that they're gonna have another. I feel that her and that guy is bound to have an affair at some point this season. But so on and so forth. We get to Uhtred and his men basically on their way to take out the Sorcerer's Lady, or at least to try to get Bloodhair and the Sorcerer's Lady. So we have this interesting scene in which the monks from the village that Bloodhair and the Seer Lady have attacked, we have them, like one of the main monks, hanging, by a rope. The seer is like saying, "Where's the silver? Where's the silver?" He's trying to tell you he doesn't know. where it's at, basically that they don't have it, and at some point I believe she puts the fire underneath him, sets him on fire, and he's begging to be put out of his misery. So Bloodhair shoots him with an arrow, which automatically kills him, and he essentially leaves. And then the Sorceress Lady is basically down to do what she wants to do. So we see her scalping these people, we see her cutting their hearts, their chests. It was just really, like grotesque. So when Uhtred and his men finally get to see her, we see her say that essentially Uhtred and her face are tied together and that Uhtred is cursed. And at this point, you can tell Uhtred, for some apparent reason, is really flabbergasted. Like she's kind of in his mind, which his main men mentioned on the way back to meet up with Alfred. So now that we're talking about Alfred, let's talk about his son. This episode is really trying to establish how much his son Edward has to learn in regards to following his father's footsteps. It also talks about how Alfred's nephew is very jealous of Alfred's son. He likes to play mind games with Alfred's son. He mentions the fact that Alfred's son Edward is kind of a womanizer, and all that, and mentioning how many people actually want to take him out, which is obviously including himself in the mix because he wants to be king. As we know from the past few seasons, his father gave the title to Alfred because he felt that his son wasn't responsible enough or man enough for it. So when we have Alfred, Uhtred, and their team together, they're talking about the best way to go about Bloodhair. One side believes they should attack. The other side believes, which side of Alfred, that they should stay. But Uhtred's like they should basically try to attack, I believe, because the people in Winchester, I believe, their home is unprotected. And he mentioned that Bloodhair might go for Winchester. Alfred's not so sure about that, but Uhtred's very much of that belief. Alfred asks about the seer, and Uhtred mentions that she's really not that big a deal. Besides the fact that if they keep her, it will definitely keep Bloodhair from doing any reprimandable harm to their families because Bloodhair is so enamored with the woman. So Alfred goes to see the seer, and the seer mentions to Alfred that he will not see another summer. So Alfred's kind of like, pondering his mind, thinking about what she said. After that, they basically had her yell constantly like a crazed woman about, her saying these random little rabbles about Bloodhair coming to save her and all that stuff. So Bloodhair comes the next morning. He cuts the throats of I believe 3 to 4 women. Uhtred says if he continues off with this bullcrap, that he'll basically use the seer as a whore, and everyone in their group will basically have their way with her. So obviously, this puts Bloodhair in his feelings. So essentially, after this, we have the seer tell Uhtred essentially that his wife's going to die, and that he can have his way with her, because he's gonna need someone for when his wife eventually dies. So we have this really great battle between Uhtred and Alfred's men against Bloodhair's. Bloodhair's men loses, and Bloodhair runs off like a little coward. When Uhtred and them return back to Winchester, Wessex, we find out that his wife actually did die and that she's been dead for a few days. And everyone is shocked. Uhtred is uncontrollable, and that's essentially how the episode ends. Thank you guys for watching my review of Last Kingdom, Season 3, Episode 1. If I missed anything, please mention it down below. And thank you guys for watching. Adios.